What's going on, everyone? Today is September 6th of 2023, and welcome back to this, the 59th edition of the Superstream. My name is Derek, and in today's video, we're going to cover several news stories from the past week, with a strong focus on the death of two musicians who died at the ages of 76 and 56, respectively, between Jimmy Buffett and Smash Mouth singer Steve Harwell. We're also going to talk about Jill Biden, who picked up COVID-19 for the second time the other day, and how her diagnosis fell on the same day as the death of Steve Harwell, who died 3 days after Jimmy Buffett. For anyone who may be new to this channel, we focus on the language of Gematria, a strong component of numerology that reveals mystical truths about our world. And it appears as if anything that goes on in the mainstream is heavily coded with numerology relevant to Gematria. This is a very simple practice. We start with the ordinal method, where every letter is assigned a number 1 through 26. The alphabet can then either be reversed or reduced into a cipher that's also called Pythagorean Gematria. And an observation of these methods, in addition to the extended ciphers that I teach, the Latin and English standard methods, both based in ancient Hebrew and Greek charts, both very relevant to the calendar as well, as we will be exploring in this video. So we won't be covering as many news stories as usual in this Superstream, but there's enough information here that we shouldn't have a problem filling more than an hour of content. And we'll be talking about this diagnosis that Jill Biden got and show how it's scripted alongside the death of Steve Harwell. Once we go over that, we'll talk about the death of Jimmy Buffett. In my last Superstream, Superstream 58, I talked about how WWE Raw would be in Omaha, Nebraska, the home of Warren Buffett, on the Skull and Bones anniversary, October 9th. And on that same day I did that video, Jimmy Buffett died, which is a clue that once again shows us that Gematria gives us clues about the future in regards to the mainstream and even our personal lives. We'll also talk about how the death of Jimmy Buffett is connected to Aaron Judge becoming the fastest player to hit 250 home runs. And then to top things off today, we're going to revisit the death of Jansen Panettiere, who was died back in February, but his death is connected to what's going on with Steve Harwell. So to begin, let's quick touch on this news story about Jill Biden getting COVID, and how this is enacted new measures at the White House, and seems to be part of this push to reinstate masks and lockdowns in certain areas of the country. And of course, remember, this is all about division, keeping people divided with one another below the political class. And it's interesting that this occurred on September 4th, or 9/4. As this is the reduction value of coronavirus pandemic, and we'll see how this all aligns with Trump's coronavirus pandemic declaration in 2020. So on that same day, September 4th, we get the death of Steve Harwell at the age of 56. And notice how September 4th this year had primary numerology of 56, 9 plus 4 plus 20 plus 23. In reduction, the name Stephen Harwell equals 56, and with the S exception, Smash Mouth equals 56. This also being the reduction sum of coronavirus. Now, the word corona, when you look up the definition of this, first speaks to the anatomy, particularly the crown or the crown of the head. And think about how on May 6th or 5/6 earlier this year, Prince Charles and Camilla, which look a lot like Britain's version of Biden and Jill, right? Joe and Jill. This happened on May 6th, 5/6. And on another date with 56 numerology, in March of 2020, Donald Trump declared a national emergency for the coronavirus pandemic. This was also the date leaving 293 days in the year, and in reverse, coronavirus pandemic equals 293. This was also the 13th of March, or 1303, and in Latin, coronavirus equals 1303. Notice how Donald John Trump has matching gematria with coronavirus, and it was Operation Warp Speed that got us the vaccines later that year, in 2020. Another definition for the word corona is the sun's upper atmosphere, which is only visible during a total solar eclipse. And those familiar with my work know that eclipses are a strong focus of what I talk about. On December 14th of 2020, the World Health Organization and FDA announced the approval of a new COVID vaccine, and that just happened to be the exact same day as a total solar eclipse that peaked over South America. That eclipse occurred at the exact halfway point of the two Great American total solar eclipses that we'll be talking about in this video. So in this article, they talk about Steve Harwell living a full-throttled life. And I thought this was an interesting quote to put there because a full-throttle life has matching ordinal and reverse gematria with total solar eclipse, including the number 202. This capitals added cipher still uses the alphabetic order but adds 26 for every capital letter. And in that method, Steve Harwell also equals 202. Now the phrase total eclipse has gematria of 137 and 187, while Smashmouth equals 137 and Stephen Harwell equals 187. The band was even formed in the year 1994, as told on their Wikipedia page, and 994 is the standard value of total solar eclipse. So strong eclipse numbers with this story. And Smashmouth's first single, which was their only Billboard #1 hit, was called Walkin' on the Sun. With a screenshot from the video here, looks like everyone's having a good time. Now, when it comes to the sun, a very significant number is 19, and this will drive us through most of this video. Think about how the sun begins with the 19th letter, and the sun is the 19th card of the major arcana in the tarot. The name Steve Harwell, initials SH, S the 19th letter, and H the 19th letter in reverse. Harwell was even born on January 9th, the date written 1/9. But what's so interesting about this is that he was born in 67, and the number 67 is the 19th prime number. Not only that, but the virus with the number 19 in it, COVID-19, has gematria of 67. In Latin, Smashmouth equals 607, and walking on the sun sums to 67 in reduction. Solar eclipse equals 190, while total solar eclipse equals 67. More numbers associated with this code. Both of these news stories on September 4th about COVID-19, this was exactly 1 year and 9 months after the last total solar eclipse over planet Earth. And notice how Jill Biden, her diagnosis fell 19 days after August 16th, which was the date of her diagnosis last year. So the two dates, 19 days apart on the calendar. This is also part of the chaos code, which COVID is supposed to help bring order to. Now, this eclipse that we just measured from, December 4th of 2021, the last total solar eclipse, that belonged to Solar Saros series 152. Every eclipse that occurs belongs to a specific numbered series, and this 152 is super important to what we'll be talking about. In reverse, the name Joe Biden equals 152, part of the chaos code, Chaos 152 in Latin. In that same Latin cipher, walking on the sun sums to 1520, which represents the same number. And when this song was released as a single, back in the year 1997, June 30th of that year, this was a date with numerology of 152. Now, notice how the first eclipse from that series was in the year 1967. I should say the first total eclipse. Now, it's rare for a Saros to mature into totality. It only happens about once every 30 years. And notice how he was born the same year as the first total eclipse from that same Saros, 152. A line of the lyrics in this song is that a mama's handkerchief is soaked because her baby's life has been revoked. Now, that's a strange line because a few years later, Steve Harwell's infant son named Presley passed away at the age of just 6 months, thanks to leukemia. He died on July 28th of 2001. What stands out about that date is that Joe Biden's first wife, who died back in 72, was born on July 28th. Biden is the second Catholic president and the first since JFK, whose wife Jackie was also born on July 28th. Jill Biden was born exactly 193 lunar phases before Steve Harwell. In the alphabetic order, walking on the sun sums to 193. On June 30th, when this song came out, it was 193 days before Steve Harwell's birthday. Now, by the way, we were looking at this date, July 28th of 2001. Well, if you run the numbers on this, back to Nelia Biden's birthday, you find this was exactly 59 years. In the standard reduction form of Gematria, the name Elvis Presley equals 59. And it was Elvis Presley that this baby was named after. But back to this 193 that we just saw. This is the 44th prime number. The word kill equals 44 in ordinal. This is a number Joe Biden also has in reduction. From the release of Walking on the Sun to the death of Presley Harwell was exactly 4 years and 4 weeks. When you write the number 44 in standard, it sums to 1512. Walking on the Sun was the first single from the album Fush Yu Mang, which has double gematria of 1512 in that same standard cipher. Using Latin gematria, 44 sums to 972, and Steve Harwell died 972 days after the Capitol riot on January 6th. And that's interesting because January 6th was the birthday of his son, Presley Harwell. In fact, Presley died during Brown lunation number 972. And just one day after Steve died, the leader of the Proud Boys, named Enrique Tarrio, which equals 729, the same digits, was sentenced to prison for his actions in the January 6th Capitol riot. In regards to this number 972, the song Walking on the Sun is almost ubiquitously referred to as a Doors remake, almost, as it has many of the same elements from the Doors music. And that stands out because earlier this year, in February, I did a video on Jansen Panettiere, the brother of Hayden Panettiere. And in that video, I talked about how it was connected to Jim Morrison and the Doors, because the last image uploaded to Instagram showed him wearing a Doors shirt. Now, Jim Morrison died on the anniversary of the state of Idaho, July 3rd. And Idaho happens to be the same state that Steve Harwell died in. July 3rd, the death date of Jim Morrison, the same date Idaho was admitted to the Union. And notice how in Gematria, Idaho equals 73 and 37, like how the date is written. Another thing connected to the Capitol, the U.S. Capitol attack recently, was The death of Bray Wyatt. Notice how Bray Wyatt's real last name was Rotunda, and the United States Capitol has the largest rotunda in the nation. Think about Bray's initials, BW. BW, the second letter, and the 23rd letter, 223. He was named after Barry Clinton Wyndham, whose name equals 223. They were born 322 months apart. Well, if you measure from the Capitol riot on January 6th of 2021 to the death of Bray Wyatt, it was 2 years and 230 days, 223. So back to this decode on Stephen Harwell. Once again, his son was named Presley, which comes from Elvis Presley. And remember earlier this year, we had the death of Lisa Marie Presley, which is another video that you can find on my channel. And I talked about how this was also connected to the solar eclipse code and her father, Elvis. Well, I thought it was interesting that later this year, in October, there's a movie called Priscilla coming out about Lisa Marie's mother and Elvis's wife, Priscilla Presley. This brings us to a Metonic cycle riddle. And the release date for Priscilla is October 27th, which is the ordinal gematria of Metonic cycle 127. The Metonic cycle is a period of exactly 19 years. And consider how this connects to Steve Harwell, born on 1/9 of 1967. Again, 67, the 19th prime. Lisa Marie died 235 days before Steve Harwell, and 235 is the number of lunar phases in the Metonic cycle. See how the word Metonic is a perfect base overlap with the name Harwell. And when you write the Metonic cycle in reverse, you get the same numbers, 245, as Jill Tracy Jacobs, Stephen Scott Harwell, and Lisa Marie Presley. If you measure from Joe Biden's birthday to Steve Harwell's, you get 24 years and 50 days. The same number that connects all of these characters I've discussed back to the Metonic cycle, the 19-year period. Hopefully you can understand how important this relation between the sun and moon is to what we see manifest in the mainstream. Back to this 127 number, reflecting the release date next month of Priscilla. The word disease equals 127. Measuring from the date that Donald Trump declared a COVID-19 national emergency, which equals 127, to the date of Jill's diagnosis and death of Harwell, was 1,270 days. Biden and positive, both 127 with caps added. But this number was also significant to Steve Harwell. Smash Mouth, Walking on the Sun, has gematria of 127. Harwell was 127 months old when Elvis Presley died. Not only did he die 127 days before his birthday, but his death was also exactly 1,270 weeks after the release of the song All-Star, which is the other most famous single released by Smash Mouth. You might remember this from this movie Shrek, for instance. That song, All-Star, was even released on a date with 127 numerology. And just for a deeper look into this connection between Steve Harwell and Elvis Presley, in the alphabetic order, Elvis Presley sums to 167. And if you measure from the birth of Elvis Presley on January 8th of 1935 to Harwell's birthday, you get exactly 1,670 weeks. Harwell was born 1 year and 23 days before Lisa Marie, Elvis's daughter. This is the ordinal gematria of rock and roll. And of course, Elvis was the king of rock and roll. Steve Harwell is a supermatch with rock and roll in the rest of the three base methods of gematria. One of those numbers being 174. Well, this song, Walking on the Sun, was released 174 days after Elvis's birthday. The name Rodney King also has Gematria of 174. This is another big part of what we'll talk about today. The song Walking on the Sun was written in response to the Rodney King incident and the resulting 1992 Los Angeles riots. So this is another part of what we'll be covering as we go. Before I get there, I want to touch on how this connects to the two eclipses. Now, we talked a lot about 127 and how this connects to both Jill Biden and Steve Harwell. Well, if you measure from these news stories to the second Great American Eclipse, you get exactly 31 weeks. And 127 is the 31st prime number. Harwell died in Boise, which equals 31, just like Elvis. The Metonic cycle is credited to an astronomer named Meton of Athens. In Latin Gematria, the name Meton sums to 225. So does Boise using Satanic Gematria, an important method of Gematria which is centered around the number 666, which we'll be touching on in depth soon. Steve Harwell died 2,205 days after the total solar eclipse that swept past Boise in 2017. The number 225 is 15 squared, and Steve Harwell sums to 150 in ordinal. So with the 0 dropped, this represents 15. So let's talk a little bit about Rodney King and how overwhelmingly numerically connected he is to this as well. And we start with talking about the death of Presley Harwell, Steve's son, in 2001. Rodney King died in 2012. And what's worth mentioning about this is that Rodney King was found dead in his swimming pool. And shockingly, he was found dead on the same date, 28 years to the day, after his father was found dead in a bathtub. So both men found dead in containers of water, exactly 28 years apart. Now, this had a lot to do with my decode on Jansen Panettiere from February, who died at the age of 28. And in that decode, I compare it to a bunch of other celebrities who also died in bathtubs, like Jim Morrison, Judy Garland, and Whitney Houston, and Whitney Houston's daughter, Bobby Brown. And the number 28 was coded into all of this. He died exactly 2,800 weeks after Judy Garland, 208 days after the anniversary of Bobby Brown. He was 28 years old. He died on a date with 28 numerology. 28 days after this image with him wearing the Doors shirt was uploaded. Remember, Jim Morrison dead a span of 208 days after his birthday on a date with 28 numerology. Like Doors equals 28. His sister Hayden Panettiere turned 28 years old on the date of the total solar eclipse in 2017. And then Jansen died 2,008 days later at the age of 28. So this was overwhelmingly coded with this water code, but I didn't even make the Rodney King connection. And now we figure, well, look at this. Rodney King, dead exactly 28 years after his dad, both found in water. Who's writing this stuff? Rodney King died 163 days after January 6th, which was the birthday of Presley Harwell. This is the 38th prime number, 163. And 1,063 months separate the deaths of Elvis Presley and Steve Harwell. Elvis, the king of rock and roll, connecting to Rodney King. Smash Mouth equals 38. So does death, killing, and murder, the number stamped in the Murder by Numbers poster. The word for moon, also 38 in Hebrew. Presley Harwell died exactly 3,800 days after Rodney King was beaten by the LAPD. His death was also 38 days after the solar eclipse that year, and he died on a date with numerology of 38. Steve Harwell died 38 days after the anniversary of his son's death. Rodney King died 161 days after Harwell's birthday. Los Angeles has double gematria of 161, where the riots were. The name Rodney also double gematria of 161. And in reduction, King equals 23. He died 23 weeks exactly after Harwell's birthday. When Walking on the Sun was released, there was a 777 in Rodney King's age, which was also there when he died. And that was also there when you measured from the LAPD beating to King's death, 7,777 days. Harwell died 63 days after the anniversary of Jim Morrison's death. Jim Morrison sums to 63, just like Paris, where he died. Morrison had birth numerology of 63, just like the date that Elvis was born, 63. So let's dive deeper into this Metonic cycle riddle, as this is really the most mind-blowing part of all of this to me. And just to reiterate, the Metonic cycle, 19 years. Harwell born on 1/9 in 67, the 19th prime. He has matching 79 and 110 gematria with Metonic, and his death fell 11 years and 79 days after Rodney King died. His son's full name has matching 237 Latin gematria with Metonic. The Metonic cycle is credited to astronomer Meton of Athens, and both Meton and Athens equals 67, the 19th prime. Steve Harwell died 67 days after the anniversary of Walking on the Sun. Smash Mouth equals 607. Walking on the Sun equals 67 reduction. This song even came out exactly 607 weeks after an eclipse from Saros 152, which is the specific solar Saros we talked about earlier. Harwell born in 67, the same year as one of those eclipses, and his death 1 year, 9 months after another one from that same series. Human Sacrifice and Blood Sacrifice, both 67. Both Elvis and Elvis Presley equals 67. And he was the king of rock and roll, which has double gematria of 67. His daughter Lisa Marie died exactly 607 lunar orbits after Elvis died. And we're also going to talk about how this is all connected to Kobe Bryant. Now, you may be asking why. Well, back in 2020, I made this post where I made this, quote, crazy theory that the song All-Star by Smash Mouth was actually connected to the death of Kobe Bryant, and then Kawhi Leonard winning the MVP. And the reason I say that is because the MVP award of the All-Star game was named the Kobe Bryant MVP award for the first time, and Kawhi was the first one to win it. I noticed how Smash Mouth All-Star equals 220, like the year that this all happened, 2020, and also 58 in reduction. Well, 58, the reduction value of both Kobe Bryant and Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard winning the Finals MVP and the All-Star MVP on both dates with 58 numerology. And think about how far they went out for this music video for All-Star. Now, when I was a kid, I saw this music video and thought, wow, look at all these cool actors and comedians in this music video. This song must be really good. But now when I look back at it, you see, oh, this video is very important. This is pointing to something down the road. And this is what we're talking about. Hints for future events through the numbers. So Kobe died on a date with 67 numerology. The name Kobe equals 67, and he died in Calabasas, which equals 67. Kobe was 670 weeks old when Kawhi Leonard was born. And Harwell died 67 days after Kawhi's birthday. Notice how Kawhi was born just one day before the date Walkin' on the Sun was released. There's always more connections in my posts. Some of these, again, a little obscure for me to go over in the video. But what I want to focus on next is this number 197. Now, if you search my blog, I've done many posts on how the city of Los Angeles is a Metonic cycle riddle. Consider how Los Angeles, where Kobe Bryant used to play, the site of the LA riots, Kawhi Leonard even signed for the Los Angeles Clippers in 2019, just before this All-Star game. The most recent MLB All-Star game was held in Seattle, which equals 19. So Los Angeles, California, in ordinal, sums to 197. And this is the next major number that's connected to the Metonic cycle. In the Metonic cycle, it's 19 years. 7 of them have a 13th month. And this story is told perfectly in Gematria. Metonic cycle, 19 years, 13th month, 13, and moon all have Gematria of 197. Steve Harwell was born 1 year, 9 months, and 7 days after Rodney King, who would go on to die on the date leaving 197 days in the year. The All-Star game, where Kawhi Leonard won this MVP award, the 2020 All-Star game, this was held in Chicago, Illinois, which also has Gematria of 197. Steve Harwell died 197 days after Jansen Panettiere. You may recall that Lisa Marie Presley died 1970 days after the first Great American Eclipse. 197 is the 45th prime number. The album Fushu Mang has double Gematria of 45, which was the age of Steve Harwell when Rodney King died. In ordinal, Rodney's full name, Rodney Glenn King, has matching 160 Gematria with the Metonic cycle. Rodney died 160 days after Steve Harwell's birthday. Now, in the reverse alphabetic order, Rodney Glenn King sums to 218. And this is another massively significant number. These two men, Rodney King and Steve Harwell, were born a span of 21 months and 8 days apart. The first Great American Eclipse was on the 21st of August, or 21/8. Harwell died a span of 218 days before the second Great American Eclipse. His son died 218 days before March 3rd, which was the date that Rodney King was beaten by the police. Death is 218, so is moon in Hebrew. Kawhi Leonard's full name sums to 218. Kawhi Anthony Leonard. And the Metonic cycle, credited to the astronomer Meton of Athens. And notice how Athens, Greece, also gives us this 218. But we need to talk once again about this number 56. The age that Stephen Harwell of Smash Mouth was when he died. Meton of Athens and Athens, Greece, both equal 56, just like Stephen Harwell, Smash Mouth, and Total Eclipse. He was also known for the smash hit All-Star. And he died a span of 56 days after the All-Star game in Seattle. 56 was the primary numerology of Lisa Marie Presley's death. His son Presley also died on a date with 56 numerology. And Presley was born 56 days before March 3rd. Kawhi Leonard signed with the Clippers on a date with 56 numerology. And Steve Harwell died 56 days after the anniversary of that signing. Steve Harwell died on a date with 56 numerology. But what really stands out more about this date is how it's the date leaving 118 days in the year. And it's almost insane how much this number is coded into what we're seeing. Notice how Metonic cycle has standard gematria of 1108. He was 56, which sums to 118, a number of rock and roll, 118. Smash Mouth, Steve Harwell, 118. When Kobe died, he was 41 years old, which equals 118, just like death and homicide in Latin. Presley Harwell was born 118 months after the Rodney King beating and died 118 days after Rodney King's birthday. Steve Harwell died a span of 11 years and 80 days after Rodney King died. Kawhi Leonard was born 118 days after Rodney King was beaten. Both happened in 1991. And now he plays for the Clippers, which sums to 118. When you write out Los Angeles, California, you get not only 118, but you also get the 118th prime number. 647. And when you measure between the births of Rodney King and Steve Harwell, you get 647 days. So there's more connections with their birthdays and death dates. Steve Harwell died in Boise, and Boise has gematria of 176, just like this actor Jansen Panettiere, 176. July 8th is the date leaving 176 days in the year. And Walking on the Sun came from the album Fushu Mang, which was released on July 8th. Rodney King died on 17/6, the 17th of June, which can also be written 617. And in Satanic Gematria, Metonic cycle, 617. This is the 113th prime number. Rodney King died exactly 10 years, 10 months, and 3 weeks after Presley Harwell, who died 1 year and 130 days before the next total solar eclipse. Rodney King was 311 months old when he was beaten by the police. And when the song that was written about that event came out, Steve Harwell was 11,130 days old. This is also the gematria of Kobe Bryant, 113 ordinal and standard. 311 is also the gematria of the Beast. And we need to talk about how the number 666 is also coded into all of this. Steve Harwell died 26 years, 66 days after Walking on the Sun was released. 666 is the sum of every square in the magic square of the sun. No matter how you spell this song, it has matching gematria with 666 in the most important ciphers. Now, 666 is the 36th triangular number. And notice how Harwell died on a date with 36 numerology, just like his son. 6 plus 6 plus 6 is 18, and both of them also died on a date with 18 numerology. The word sun equals 180. So does the star, sun, 18 in both reduction methods. The number 18 is found in the radius of the moon, 1,080 miles. All-Star came out when Kobe Bryant was exactly 1,080 weeks old. But what also stands out about that measurement is that 1,080 weeks is also exactly 256 lunar phases. The name Presley Scott Harwell, his son, sums to 256, just like Jansen Panettiere. And when Steve Harwell died, he was 2,956 weeks old exactly. This is also a number connected to the moon, as Neil Armstrong, the first man to allegedly step on the moon, did so at 256. 666 equals 256. 666 also equals 2,038, and the moon is an average of 238,000 miles from Earth. Steve died 22 years and 38 days after his son. Walking on the Sun equals 238, just like Rodney King's full name. Harwell died 238 days after his birthday. This also reflects Kobe Bryant's birthday of 23/8. A number also found in Kawhi Leonard's age when he signed with the Clippers. The Rodney King beating occurred on March 3rd, or 3/3, which is the date leaving 303 days in the year. Both police and LAPD equal 33 in Gematria. Steve Harwell has birth numerology of 33. Smashmouth, Walking on the Sun, has matching 330 Gematria with the word sun. And the song came out 330 weeks after the beating on 3/3. Kobe Bryant died 330 days after 3/3, and the name Kobe equals 33. Steve was 33 years old when his son was born, and also 3 days before his birthday. Jim Morrison, 330 months old when he died, and The Doors equals 330 with prime numbers. When you write out the number 33, it has matching gematria with 666. 156. Eclipses always occur 1, 5, or 6 lunar phases after the other one, or the last one. Eclipse equals 156 Hebrew, and eclipse the sun equals 156 ordinal. Boise equals 156 in Latin. That's where Steve Harwell died. His son died on the date leaving 156 days in the year. This is a number of ritual sacrifice. And if you look at the Brown lunation number for the death of Rodney King, I thought it was interesting that you get this upside down 911. And of course, 911 is the 156th prime number. The sun's radius is 432,000 miles, while the moon's diameter is 2,160 miles. And both of these numbers were found in the multiplicative numerology of the date Steve Harwell died, 216 and 432. The name Stephen Harwell equals 216. This is the ordinal value of Elvis Aaron Presley, Elvis's full name. Los Angeles 216 with capital letters. This was a number paramount to Lisa Marie Presley, who was exactly 2,160 weeks old when Michael Jackson died. This really important All-Star game back in 2020 was even played on the date 216. And when Kobe Bryant died, he was 2,161 weeks old. So just one off of 2,160, our big moon number. But these are the same digits found in his death date, 126. Steve Harwell was exactly 1,260 weeks old for the Rodney King incident. His son's name, Presley, equals 126. This number 216 is 6 times 6 times 6. So this is just massive 666 riddle. A number I've been talking about a lot this year. And really every year. But one more thing I want to explain about the death of Presley Harwell and how Kawhi Leonard is synced up to this, which I mean, again, who would expect this? But, back in 2020, I called this, that there would be a connection with this All-Star game and Smash Mouth. When Presley Harwell died in 2001, it was exactly 10 years and 21 weeks after the Rodney King incident. It was also exactly 121 months after the birthday of Kawhi Leonard. And the name Kawhi Leonard sums to 121 in ordinal. In reverse, Kawhi Leonard equals 203. And Presley Harwell was just 203 days old when he died. The phrase blood sacrifice also equals 121 like Kawhi Leonard. And notice how Presley Scott Harwell has matching reverse gematria with blood sacrifice and total solar eclipse. Kawhi Leonard also equals 68, and Harwell died a span of 68 days after Leonard's birthday. This is a number also found in both Elvis and Jansen Panettiere. All right, so that'll wrap up the Harwell decode, but there are a couple more numerical connections that he has to Jill Biden that I want to talk about. First, think about how his name was Stephen Scott Harwell. This means both of his given names, Stephen and Scott, have gematria of 77. Not only does Jill Biden equal 77, but Jill Tracy Jacobs Biden equals 77. And measuring from her diagnosis and the death of Steve Harwell to Joe Biden's birthday, you get 77 days. Walking on the sun equals 77. Joe Biden was 77 years old when the COVID pandemic began, and the man who started that emergency, Donald Trump, is now 77 years old. He was 82 days after his birthday for this story, and notice how COVID equals 82. COVID-19 sums to 72 in ordinal. Joe's first wife, Nelia Hunter Biden, died in the year 72. And now, Jill Biden is 72 years old. She was 93 days after her birthday, which is the Sumerian value of coronavirus, 930. Jill Tracy Jacobs, her full name, has matching 160 gematria with the Metonic cycle. This big riddle. And, of course, the Metonic cycle, if you flip this 6 upside down, you do get a 19, which is kind of cool. Well, Steve Harwell was born 145 days before Jill's 16th birthday. And the name Joe Biden equals 145. Joe was exactly 1,045 sidereal months old when he became the president. Jill's diagnosis falls 1 year and 45 days after Joe's diagnosis last year. And Joe Biden is a Catholic, which equals 145. Jill was 21 years and 45 days old when his first wife died. So next I want to talk about this skull and bones riddle. And this has really been the driver of so much numerology this year, I should say. Order 322, headquartered at Yale University, which turns 322 years old in the year 2023. Skull and crossbones equals 223. Well, if you measure to Yale University's anniversary, which is not a phrase I'm going to say 10 times fast anytime soon, you find that this story fell 35 days before Yale's special anniversary. Her diagnosis was also exactly 35 sidereal months after Joe Biden took office. And he's the first Catholic president since the 35th president, JFK. Biden is the 46th. Catholic equals 46. But what's so special about this 35 is that the 35th prime number is 149, which is the gematria Jill Biden shares with Skull and Bones. The name Biden equals 322, and Harwell was born 322 sidereal months after Joe Biden. Finally, the name Jill has matching gematria with Yale. It's a super match. But as I mentioned earlier, Joe's first wife, Nelia Hunter Biden, has the same birthday as the only other first lady of a Catholic president, Jackie Kennedy. Jill was born 10 months and 7 days after the birthday of Joe's first wife. She was diagnosed with COVID exactly 10,700 days after Jackie Kennedy died, or 109 days after the anniversary. And here we have the numbers 17 and 19. Well, John F. Kennedy was born in 1917. And he shares 109 and 107 gematria with Joe Biden's full name. Now, this 109 is also the founding date of Yale University, 10-9. 109 is the 29th prime number. Jackie Kennedy was born in the year 29. And if you measure from her death to the date of this news, you get a span of 29 years, 109 days. Jackie Kennedy died on the 19th of May, or 19/4. The word Catholic equals 194. Jill Biden's full name equals 194. And remember that Jackie Kennedy died in 1994, which happens to be the same year that Smash Mouth was formed. So it all comes full circle, doesn't it? Next up, we're going to talk about the death of Jimmy Buffett. In my last super stream, I talked about WWE's Raw on Yale's 322nd anniversary, which will be in Omaha, Nebraska, and how this is a riddle connected to 666, the movie The Omen, where the number 666 is assigned to a guy named Damien, and Damien, one of the biggest stars in WWE right now. And I went on to talk about how this was all connected to Warren Buffett. Buffett equals 109, just like the date that this Raw will be hosted in his home of Omaha, Nebraska, which equals 109. And it's just crazy because the same exact day that I did that live stream, Jimmy Buffett died. So let's talk about this and how it's connected to Skull and Bones. This ongoing riddle. Skull and Bones sums to 76, which is also the gematria of Connecticut colony, which founded Yale University. Human sacrifice and blood sacrifice equals 76, which again was Buffett's age. Jimmy died 251 days after his birthday at the age of 920 months and 7 days. Both of these numbers found in ritual sacrifice or sacrifice. In reduction, sacrifice equals 46, which happens to be the year that Jimmy Buffett was born. He's best known for the song Margaritaville, which is the namesake of his restaurant chain all around the country. Jimmy Buffett died 46 years after the release of Margaritaville. Well, the 46th prime number is 199, and his death was 199 days after the anniversary of the release. His death was also exactly 17,000 days after Margaritaville came out. Kill, sacrifice, ritual sacrifice, and ritual human sacrifice, all 17. He even died on a date with numerology of 17. And look at his age when he died. 289. That's 17 squared, 289. Jimmy Buffett, born in Pascagoula, Mississippi, which is actually a big part of this riddle. This has Gematria of 289. Notice how Pascagoula, Mississippi has matching 553 Gematria with Connecticut, where Yale is headquartered. His restaurant, established in Key West, Florida, which has a lot of overlap with Yale as well. And again, Buffett equals 109, like Yale's founding date. Back in 2009, an episode of South Park called Margaritaville featuring Jimmy Buffett was aired on Comedy Central. Notice how South Park equals the 109th prime number in Gematria. This was an Easter special. Easter equals 281, digits found in Jimmy's age at death. I also thought it was interesting that this episode aired 207 days after Warren Buffett's birthday, and the name James William Buffett equals 207, perhaps foreshadowing how their deaths would be connected. If you measure from that episode of South Park to the death of Jimmy Buffett, you get the same digits that appear in the Gematria of Skull and Bones, 572 and 752. Jimmy was 1,572 weeks old when Margaritaville was released. How wild is that? He was also 11,009 days old when the song came out. And 1109, this is connected to the sacrifice code. The Brotherhood of Death equals 611. So does blood sacrifice. Ritual human sacrifice, 911. Connecticut colony, even 1116. And Warren Buffett just turned 1,116 months old on the same day that Jack Sonny died. If you missed my video on Jack Sonny, definitely check that out. Of course, he died just a couple days before the Walking on the Sun guy. Jimmy Buffett also died 11,190 days after the debut of WWE Raw, and you're going to be shocked at how connected his death is to the WWE. His hometown, Pascagoula, Mississippi, equals 1119. He even died 6 years and 11 days after the first Great American Eclipse. Notice how the White House equals 76, and Jimmy Buffett has the same gematria as the White House, 1488. The White House also syncing up with Margaritaville. And perhaps this was foreshadowing that just 3 days later, Jill Biden would get the White House on lockdown for COVID. So now, once again, we're going to talk about how this is all connected to WWE Raw, which is in Warren Buffett's home on Yale's special anniversary. The name James William Buffett sums to 117. And I thought this was interesting because Warren Buffett's most recent wealth evaluation put him at $117 billion. And the Buffett's birthdays are separated by 117 days. The next episode of WWE Raw, after Jimmy's death, was in Charlotte, North Carolina. And Charlotte, North Carolina is the birthplace of superstar Charlotte Flair. So we're actually going to see how she's synced up to this as well. Notice how Charlotte Flair is a super match with Margaritaville. In ordinal, Charlotte sums to 102, which is Jimmy's primary birth numerology. He died 250 days after his birthday, which is the ordinal value of Charlotte, North Carolina. Yale University also 205, the same digits. He died 149 days after Charlotte Flair's birthday, like Skull and Bones in ordinal. Brotherhood of Death equals 187, and Charlotte will be 187 days old, or after her birthday, on the Brotherhood's anniversary. Charlotte was born 20,307 days after Warren Buffett, which is the ordinal value of Jimmy's birthplace, Pascagoula, Mississippi. So if you measure from Jimmy Buffett's death to this special Warren Buffett episode of WWE Raw, it's 38 days. This is the ordinal value of Omaha, which hosts that episode. Again, death, killing, murder, 38. His hometown and his wife both equal 38. Yale is in New Haven, which equals 38. The name Buffett has Gematria connecting to the 128th prime number. His birthplace, 128. Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville, 128. Jimmy Buffett, Margaritaville, 1208. WWE Raw in Charlotte, North Carolina, which equals 128. Charlotte equals 128. Charlotte's real name, Ashley Flair, sums to 128 ordinal. And this episode of Raw will be 128 days before the anniversary of Margaritaville's release. One hour and 28 minutes is 88 minutes, and Pascagoula sits on the 88th meridian. Jimmy died 8 months and 8 days after his birthday. This is the ordinal value of Margarita, 88. Colony of Connecticut, 88. Warren Buffett's full name equals 88 and 214. 214, like the release date of the song Margaritaville, February 14th. Margaritaville had release numerology of 93, matching WWE Raw, which sums to 93 ordinal, and debuted in the year 93. Warren Buffett turned 93 years old just 2 days before Jimmy Buffett died. Notice how WWE Raw sums to 30, 33, and 303, like Pascagoula, Mississippi. Jimmy Buffett died 30 years, 33 weeks, and 3 days after Raw debuted, on a date with 33 numerology. I mentioned in that decode how there was a connection to the number 250. Charlotte, North Carolina, 250. Jimmy dead 250 days after his birthday. Right after I made this post, I saw this story telling us that Aaron Judge just became the fastest player in MLB history to 250 career home runs. And what stood out immediately about this home run is that we are told that it traveled 426 feet. Aaron Judge was born on 426, and his middle name is James. Well, Jimmy Buffett's middle name, well, first name I should say, is also James. This was all connected to Yale, and notice how Yale equals 426, just like his birthday, just like the length of this home run. Aaron Judge is a league MVP who plays in New York. The city of New York just got another league MVP when Aaron Rodgers, who shares a first name with Aaron Judge, signed with the Jets. And notice how Aaron Rodgers signed or got traded on April 26th, Judge's birthday. Consider how important the number 39 is to New York, which equals 39, just like NY and NYC. New York is the Empire State, which equals 39. Jimmy Buffett died exactly 39 years and 39 weeks after Aaron Rodgers was born. Notice how Aaron Judge has matching gematria with both Jack Sonny and Jimmy Buffett, 96 and 174. And you have to appreciate how Jimmy Buffett has the exact same gematria as Steve Harwell. There's no difference in their base numbers here. Aaron Judge and Jimmy Buffett both equal 174. Aaron Judge was born 17 weeks and 4 days after Jimmy's birthday. And notice how he plays for the Yankees, which is a perfect supermatch with the name Buffett. This was the Yankees' 135th game of the season. Yankees and Buffett both 135 with capital letters. Remember how we discussed the number 128 and how strong this was connecting to Charlotte? Well, if I can keep my spot here, Jimmy Buffett died 128 days after Aaron Judge's birthday, and his death was also 10 months and 28 days after Aaron Judge broke the American League home run record. Aaron Judge accomplished his feat in Houston, which has gematria of 223 and 322. The name James that they share, also 223. Houston, Texas, and Yankees Astros, where this game took place, both 46. And remember, Jimmy Buffett, born in 46, died 46 years after Margaritaville. And I thought it was interesting that he was born on Christmas, December 25th. And Aaron Judge was playing against the Astros, which has matching gematria with Christmas in the extended methods. Aaron Judge also with matching numbers with Margaritaville. Aaron Judge accomplished his feat in his 810th career game, which is why he was the fastest to ever do this. The name Aaron Rodgers equals 810 and 135, and again, this was the 135th game of the season. Jimmy Buffett has matching gematria with both 250 and 810. Aaron Charles Rodgers has matching gematria with Yale University. So does Warren Edward Buffett. And Aaron Rodgers has that special 201 gematria connecting him to the Jesuit order. And of course, the Jesuit emblem is an eclipse. The motto is IHS, which stands for Jesus Hominum Salvator in Latin, Jesus, Savior of Man. This equals 274, and check out Aaron Rodgers' age when Jimmy Buffett died. Exactly 2,074 weeks old and 274 days after his birthday. The Jesuits were founded on 9/27. Sacrifice equals 9/27. And Jimmy Buffett was 920 months and 7 days old when he died. The worst mass shooting in U.S. history occurred in Las Vegas, which is where Presley Harwell died, Steve's son. There's also a Margaritaville restaurant in Las Vegas. Well, that was the 477th anniversary of the Jesuit order for that shooting. And Aaron Rodgers just turned 477 months old, like the value of ritual sacrifice. He was also 39 years and 9 months old, and the word murder equals 399. So does Aaron Charles Rodgers and the Jesuit order. All of this summing to 399, matching his age. Buffett died exactly 71 months after the Vegas shooting, and the Society of Jesus equals 71. So just a quick shout out to Dan Barrett, one of the best Gematria YouTubers, probably my favorite. He did a video recently and talked about how, you have to be careful when decoding things and connecting them to the Jesuit order because there's so many Jesuit numbers. there has to be a clear theme at play. And to me, this completely qualifies, right? I mean, you have this connection to Aaron Judge, who's strongly connected to Aaron Rodgers now, who signed on his birthday. And these Jesuit numbers are just so strong in these ages. I just had to absolutely point it out. All right, guys, I'm running a little long here, so we're going to fire through this video on Hayden Panettiere, her brother, Jason Panettiere, who died in February of this year. And I talked about this in my first Decode Today about Steve Harwell. Now, in my video on Jansen Panettiere, I focused on the connection to the Doors and Jim Morrison, but this was also heavily connected to the show Heroes, where his sister Hayden Panettiere played the lead character, named Claire Bennett. So we talked about Jim Morrison, and the name Jim Morrison equals 1068. And how interesting that the show Heroes, measuring from its debut to its finale, aired for exactly 1068 weeks. So another nice addition there. Back in 2004, Jansen Panettiere got his first credited acting role in a film with this movie Tiger Cruise, where his sister Hayden was the main character. And it's interesting that this came out in, I'm thinking it came out in 2010, so this was not a Tiger year. But nonetheless, an interesting name. In this film, Hayden plays Maddie Dolan. Maddie Dolan sums to 168. And Jansen Panettiere died in New York City, which sums to 168. Now, the 68 is also very strong. Jansen Panettiere died exactly 680 weeks after the series finale of Heroes, and Heroes ended in a Tiger year. The Chinese New Year in 2010 fell on February 10th, or let's see, that's 2024. Maybe that did give it to us. Maybe it was February 14th, 2010. So a week later was the Year of the Tiger. Anyway, the name Jansen Panettiere equals 68. So does the Panettieres. Panettiere also equals 50, just like Morrison, and Jansen died on the 50th day of the year. His death was also 13 years and 11 days after the end of Heroes. And I thought this was interesting because 13 times 11 is 143. And his sister's name sums to 1403, whether you use her common name or her full name. And in Heroes, she played Claire Bennett. And the name Claire Bennett also has this 1430. Heroes equals 238 in Latin. And Jansen died 238 days before an annular eclipse over the United States. He also died on the final day of brown lunation, 1238. Again, a significant moon number. The moon, 238,000 miles from Earth on average. The moon has a diameter of 2,160 miles and a radius of 1,080. The name Claire Bennett equals both 108 and 216. 216, just like Jansen, whose death fell 2 months and 16 days after the anniversary of the last total eclipse. Eclipse equals 192, just like the date he died, the 19th of February. He also died 219 days, with the end date included, before his birthday, but without the end date, it was 218. Moon and death both equal 218. Hayden Panettiere was born on the 21st of August, or 21/8. This means she celebrated her birthday on the date of the 2017 total solar eclipse. And of course, the logo for Heroes has the solar eclipse. If you measure between the two great American eclipses, you get exactly 346 weeks or 82 lunar phases. Hayden's full name equals 346, and her common name equals 82. In Tiger Cruise, her name Maddie Dolan equals 82. And notice how her birth numerology matches total eclipse and eclipse. Jansen was said to have died from cardiomegaly. And notice how this sums to 113, which, by the way, is a significant number of deception. All of these words on your screen equal 113. Dishonest, not honest, fiction, not true, illusions, not factual, perjury, disinfo, bullshit, etc. Hayden died exactly 1 year, 1 month, and 3 weeks before the 2024 total eclipse. His sister Hayden, Panettiere, and Hayden Leslie Panettiere all equal 113. Just like Moon, and the Earth is 11/3 the size of the Moon. The name Hayden Panettiere has matching 170 Gematria with Moon. As we pointed out earlier, this is a big kill number. Kill, sacrifice, etc., all 17. Well, Jansen Panettiere died in connection to Lisa Marie Presley, as we discussed earlier. Their deaths were separated by 1 month and 7 days, or 38 days. And there's that 38 again. Just like Jimmy Buffett dying 38 days before Yale's anniversary. When you write out 38, it even has matching Gematria with Skull and Bones, 149. And Jansen died 1 year and 49 days before the next total eclipse. That's also a span of 1 year and 50 days, and his sister's name equals the 150th prime. We talked about all the 28 in Jansen's death in my decode on Steve Harwell. They were both born in Palisades 280, the Panettieres. He died 2008 days after his sister turned 28 years old on the date of the eclipse. He was 28. He died on a date with 28 numerology. And Heroes ended on February 8th, or 2/8. 28 has matching Gematria with Eclipse and Eclipse of the Sun. And he died 156 months after the end of Heroes. His name, Jansen Panettiere, also 156. Lisa Marie and Lisa Presley, both 156. She died 1,056 months after her father was born. Finally, Eclipse equals 33, and not only was Jansen born 330 days before his sister's birthday, but she was 33 years old when he died. All right, everyone. That wraps up this edition of the Super Stream. Thanks to everybody who stuck it out. If you'd like to support the work and keep these videos coming, you can check the links down in the description below. You can join the website for a small monthly fee, which also gives you access to numerous tools on the Gematria and date calculators. Peace, love, God bless, and we'll talk to you all next time. See ya.